Major funding for A Taste for the Past, architect Piercarlo Bontempi, is provided by the University of Notre Dame's School of Architecture.
Mettetevi a tavola che siamo pronti per mangiare.
Posso... Oh, the bodies. Come ci sediamo?
In Italia di salami ce ne sono 666 qualità diverse. Purtroppo nell'architettura non succede così. Gli edifici a Milano, a Roma, a Napoli, gli edifici moderni, sono tutti uguali. È come se noi avessimo una sola qualità di salame. Allora io sto pelando un salame e faccio questa azione che è un'azione tradizionale, molto consolidata, perché tolgo la pelle del salame, che è il budello del maiale, perché ha una patina di muffa. Se tagliassi il salame lasciando la pelle, porterei il sapore della muffa all'interno e guasterebbe il gusto del salame. In architettura purtroppo non succede la stessa cosa che succede in Italia per quanto riguarda il cibo. Sarebbe come se, utilizzando il concetto del modernismo in architettura, tagliassimo questo salame con la pelle e invece di tagliarlo in modo inclinato, poi vi spiego perché si taglia inclinato, lo tagliassi diritto. Non facciamo aspettare i commensali tutto questo tempo.
Grazie.
This is how architect Piercarlo Bontempi welcomed us to his office.
Light food like the pumpkin cake, fresh cheese.
The chef.
Bontempi, his staff, and his family set a beautiful table to share a meal of traditional foods from Parma in northern Italy. Salamis, prosciutto di Parma, lambrusco, and of course, the famous cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano.
Your typical wine of Parma.
Evviva! Molto semplice.
Grazie.
Bontempi's reverence for local tradition is the main theme that runs through his life and his work as an architect. And he believes this gives his buildings a kind of humanity that today's architecture desperately needs. Like a warm gathering around a traditional dinner table.
That's wonderful.
Questo è il formaggio parmigiano reggiano per rompere i pezzi. Questo aspetto granuloso. Evviva!
Evviva! Evviva!
That's nice.
Il mio primo obiettivo è far star bene le persone che vengono in contatto con la mia architettura.
These buildings, you think they have been there for a while, because they are part of the language. They really speak that refined language of traditional architecture, which Italy has been championing for more than 2,000 years.
This villa, which Bontempi designed in 2001 for a hilltop vineyard not far from his studio, is a good example. One reason it looks so old is because it's handcrafted using traditional materials and centuries-old building techniques. It blends in so seamlessly with nearby buildings along a historic pilgrimage route that it's fooled passers-by, a fact Bontempi loves.
E un giorno due pellegrini olandesi si sono fermati, avevano una piccola guida, un libro, e cercavano in questo libro l'edificio della Villa Borelli e mi hanno chiesto come mai in quella guida, dove erano segnati tutti gli edifici notevoli del percorso per andare a Roma, non ci fosse segnato quell'edificio. E loro non volevano credere che fosse nuovo, pensavano che fosse un edificio restaurato e per me è stata una grande soddisfazione.
He's one of the rare architects in Italy and in Europe who does traditional architecture competently.
Beh, io ho sempre pensato di fare l'architetto fin da bambino.
Bontempi's father introduced the young Piercarlo to architecture, and he introduced himself to us. Bontempi's father was a geometra. That's a skilled liaison between the architects and the builders. Through him, Piercarlo met architects he still remembers.
Nel giardino di questo architetto c'era un albero in cui lui aveva fatto degli innesti di frutti diversi. Sullo stesso albero c'erano albicocche e prugne. E allora, da allora io ho veramente pensato che l'architetto fosse un mestiere magico, un mestiere con delle grandi capacità di creare delle cose per sorprendere. Allora ho pensato che forse da grande avrei potuto fare l'architetto.
Bontempi has lived and worked in the Emilia-Romagna region of northern Italy his entire life, and the old house he lives in has been passed not from father to son, but from artist to artist. In the 19th century, celebrated local artist Riccardo Feinardi owned it. Feinardi passed it down to one of his students, who was a friend of Bontempi's family.
Venivo qua in questa casa durante l'estate, nel suo studio da pittore, a imparare a disegnare.
The River Parma flows through the middle of Bontempi's hometown. Getting lost in the old streets of this ancient city is like time traveling. Even the newer buildings are hundreds of years old, and many date from the Renaissance and even the medieval period.
We associate Italy with historical greatness in architecture. The Italians think of traditional buildings as just part of everyday life.
This architecture is to do with where we feel comfortable. It's extremely old experience. We know what it is like. The most attractive places actually in the world are done that way.
If you strolled the city in centuries past, you might have bumped into the painter of Parma's cathedral dome, Antonio da Correggio, or Giambattista Bodoni, designer of the Bodoni typeface, or opera composer Giuseppe Verdi.
Such a tender, literally loving relationship with the winding streets, the cobblestones, the markets, the church. That would be one of the great attractions of Italy, is this long, long story of successful urban living.
Quella che andiamo a vedere adesso è la mia strada preferita di Parma. Non è una strada importante, non è una strada dritta, cambia le sue dimensioni, da più stretta diventa più grande e cambia l'orientamento. C'è per esempio un palazzo monumentale. A me piace molto quando una strada non rivela subito dove porta. Quando arriviamo là, la piazza del Duomo sarebbe una grande sorpresa.
One of the great things about an Italian town is the surprise, the happenstance. The way you can be on a little curving street and not know quite what's at the end, and then suddenly it opens up into this wonderful piazza.
Beh, questo è il centro religioso della città.
It's the crossroads, it's where everybody comes together.
Che è un'altra piazza a poca distanza da qua. Battistero, il palazzo vescovile, è stato pensato con 2 torri.
For a modern-day architect designing traditional buildings, these ancient piazzas are full of inspiration.
Va posé sur les chapiteaux.
At the 13th century baptistry, Bontempi pointed out the odd way that the tops of the columns support the porches above, called loggia.
De l'intérieur qui n'arrive pas.
The architect seems to have rejected the traditional way a horizontal line sits solidly on top of a column.
Mais fait partie de la vie de l'architecture. Voilà. Un grande musicista, Gustav Mahler, diceva che la tradizione è custodire il fuoco, non adorare le ceneri.
Do you think that Piercarlo, being from Parma, this is what's familiar to him from his childhood? To show me how Bontempi has applied the lessons of ancient cities, one of his colleagues, Fabio Paoletti, took me to Fonti di Matilda, a spa town they designed surrounded by a golf course.
We are in the main public space of the village, that is the piazza. The main building is the hotel, and now you can see the hotel is connected with the covered gallery to the spa.
Which is over there.
That is over there on a red stucco. On that side is the foresteria, like in Italian villas.
Foresteria, what is
Foresteria is a guest house.
that? Oh, the guest house, okay.
So the hotel is also subdivided in a main building and then in a guest house.
So you're trying to create a sense of a village that grew naturally over time.
So this is the main loggia of the spa.
It's really an ensemble planning, that there's a logic to it. When you see it, you feel you don't need an explanation.
He's figured out how to recreate happenstance in a convincing way. And it's got to be convincing enough so that it's something you enjoy seeing day after day after day. Something subtle enough so that it still brings you pleasure. It can't be just some big wow surprise that you've seen it once and that's it, and it no longer interests you. Piercarlo Bontempi has tried to push back a little bit against the Italian tendency to be too casual about the past, to take it for granted.
Il mio lavoro viene quasi considerato una sorta di follia. I più gentili sono quelli che dicono «Ah, tu sei quello che fa le cose all'antica», ma normalmente si alzano le spalle, fanno un sorriso e considerano il mio lavoro come una semplice stravaganza. Il mio studio è uno studio molto piccolo e forse per questo favorisce i rapporti umani.
All'interno dello studio poi si vive in maniera molto informale anche, si è un po' tutti amici, mangiamo insieme, ci ritroviamo la sera.
Io penso che sia un po' connaturato con lo spirito italiano, di avere questa vicinanza tra il lavoro e la vita.
Ma poi alla fine se si guarda fuori dalle finestre si vede un bellissimo paesaggio.
Giuseppe Grecci has been working for Bontempi since Grecci was a teenager. He arrived as a shy young man not long out of high school with a talent for painting and no idea what to do with his life.
E gli ho detto, Giuseppe, fai in questo modo, stai 15 giorni nello studio, così vedi qual è la vita e il lavoro di un architetto.
After that trial run, Bontempi hired him to create watercolor paintings of the firm's designs, an all but lost tradition in today's age of computer rendering.
E noi facciamo un acquerello estremamente preciso, molto dettagliato.
E dal nostro punto di vista è tuttora lo strumento migliore per poter rappresentare l'architettura.
With Bontempi's guidance, Grecci eventually grew into a full-fledged designer.
La cosa più importante che mi ha insegnato è che l'architettura non è unicamente costruire una casa e fare la casa più bella che ci possa essere, ma cercare di fare una casa in cui le persone stiano bene e vivano bene.
Giuseppe è il mio allievo prediletto. L'Italia è stata per 2000 anni un luogo quasi perfetto.
Bontempi's description of Italy was one of the most poetic things he said to me. He called it a grand masterpiece built by farmers, architects, construction workers, and engineers.
Perché è fatto di campi, di vigne, di ponti, di porti, di città, di paesi. Io dico sempre che è quasi un'anticipazione del paradiso. Abbiamo fatto molto per distruggere questo capolavoro.
You go outside the traditional urban core of a lot of great European cities and it's a disaster. I was in Nîmes in the south of France. It's this just beautiful traditional center with the most perfectly preserved Roman temple. You go a couple of miles away from there, you could be in New Jersey. I mean, it just sort of, the whole thing just falls apart into sprawl.
You can see it in almost every city that as you arrive, let's say coming in from the airport or something, it's a dreadful experience. And it's discouraging that it doesn't have more architecturally to do with the old city.
In many cases, the old cities themselves aren't what they used to be.
So much of Europe was destroyed in the war.
All of the European countries had a lot to think about and cope with when they were planning how to rebuild.
This building was bombed in 1944 during World War II. Bombs came in from the roof, a lot of stuff burned.
It all burned. Teatro Farnese was built in 1618. In many places around Europe, ruined buildings like these were torn down and replaced by modern structures. But this one was carefully restored. Matteo Cazzola, an engineer in Bontempi's office, said this reconstruction from the 1950s has been an inspiration to Bontempi.
When you rebuild something, it's just like keeping this alive. The design of this theater was something important. Even if the material was burned, the idea was this theater was still alive.
Of course, rebuilding historic structures is expensive, but there's another reason many weren't saved. The Nazis and fascists had used classical architecture as a symbol.
Avendo perso la Seconda Guerra Mondiale anche a causa del sistema politico che l'aveva generata, si è fatto dopo la Seconda Guerra Mondiale una sorta di tabula rasa.
It's nearly impossible to find books about classic architecture.
Most architecture schools don't teach that craft, nor that knowledge, nor the vocabulary.
E questo vuol dire avere perso la propria identità. E secondo me è estremamente grave.
I have a collection of a sketchbook.
This is professor and architect Adolfo Natalini.
This is October 81.
1981. He remembers Bontempi in the 70s and 80s as one of his star pupils, and he's saved some of Bontempi's student work. In the 60s, Natalini had founded Super Studio, a group of architects best known for what they called the Continuous Monument, a white grid-like building that stretched across the landscape like a superhighway. It was a sly critique of the modernist dream of a universal solution to all design and living needs. But later, when Bontempi was a student, Natalini was up to something very different.
Poi Adolfo Natalini si è orientato lui la chiamava cultura materiale.
We were interested in vernacular architecture and popular creativity.
Cioè ha studiato molto gli attrezzi della vita preindustriale.
We thought that also architecture, which is related to the different place, must be different in every place because every place is different.
Natalini influenced Bontempi in another way. He introduced him to the architect and urban planner Leon Krier. Krier is an outspoken crusader for building human-scale cities using a familiar traditional architectural vocabulary.
The human scale is actually something which has to do with dimension and with the way towns and societies are structured.
Maybe Krier's most famous work is the plan for the traditional town of Poundbury. Prince Charles chose Krier to design this new district of Dorchester in the south of England. Krier's design draws on his research into livable and humane urban planning.
A large town is not an extension of a small town, but it's just a repetition of small towns. It measures 1 kilometer across, 10 minutes walk across, and he just repeated it.
25 miles east of Paris, a number of architects, including Pier Carlo Bontempi, are applying these kinds of lessons in traditional town planning at Val d'Europe. It's a brand new town they're building for the Walt Disney Company next door to Disneyland Paris.
We are in the middle of nothing. We are just a flat land of mud. And like today, it's very often raining.
Disney might be the developer here, but the planners of Val d'Europe bristle at any suggestion that it's Disney-esque.
It's not a cartoon. It's not a theme park. It's not a cartoon. It's a real city.
Disney commissioned Bontempi to design an Italian piazza called Place de Toscane as the gateway to the shopping mall in the heart of this French suburb.
I knew his talent and his quality of work. Pierre understood very well the integration of this project with the surrounding development.
Why an Italian piazza? Paris-based architect Maurice Culot, who has also designed buildings at Val d'Europe, co-wrote a book about this piazza.
We walk on the piazza, and you see the piazza is covered with stone. And what do we find in the center of the piazza?
The fountain, yes.
Fountain. It's in stone, not in concrete. This is natural material, cut, carved, come from the ground, and it's there forever. Bontempi got the sense of eternity.
But some people would say it's not of our time.
Why are you doing building that looks like old building? We all want to have a father, a grandfather, and so on. And we try to give to our children the sensation that we belong to a chain, you know, what do you call that?
A chain, yes.
A chain, yeah, voilà.
Like a link
Voilà,
to
voilà.
history.
So it's very important.
It feels like a real square. That is very rare in modern developments.
We are inside the belly, you know. We like the belly, you know.
Like a womb.
Like a womb. Inside something that encloses us. And we feel well, you see? Also very comfortable, not only a stage design, no.
You know, to do this kind of traditional work well, you need to understand detail,
proportion, the windows, the shutters.
And the roof heights, right, are different, and the types of roofs?
But it's not a picture of that, it's the actual experience of it.
It's sensitive.
It has to look easy, even though in fact it was hard.
L'impressione che le persone ricevono dovrebbe essere quella di edifici costruiti anche in momenti diversi da architetti diversi.
Bontempi's work for Disney may be rooted in reality, but his newest project is pure fantasy. It's a cultural center and an enormous pyramid-shaped church. They're inspired by the fantastical visions of 18th century architects Claude Nicolas Ledoux, Jean-Jacques Lecoeur, and especially Étienne Louis Boulet, who proposed a colossal sphere and towering pyramid as a memorial to Sir Isaac Newton.
And I like this kind of architecture.
The entire project is the dream of this man, Italian publisher Franco Maria Ricci. The Cultural Center will be a permanent public home for his vast collection of books by and about Giambattista Bodoni, the 18th century topographer and Parma native. Ricci's love of Bodoni inspired his ultra-successful career in publishing.
For many years, they did run a beautiful magazine.
Called by his own initials.
FMR.
More like a very valuable book whenever you picked it up. Sort of a work of art.
I have the whole collection of that. I still keep as a treasure.
Quando lui mi ha chiesto di lavorare per lui, avevo rifiutato questo incarico perché conoscevo la sua mania di perfezione, che mi ero sbagliato nel valutare Franco come un committente molto difficile, perché Franco si è rivelato un cliente non molto difficile, molto difficile. Effettivamente Franco Maria Ricci è un uomo di grande genialità. Sarà come un grande ritratto di questo personaggio.
The construction site was like a lake of mud the day we visited, but from the top of the Cultural Center's tower, you can see that the pyramid stands at the center of what Ricci claims is the world's largest labyrinth. It's made of live bamboo trees.
Il percorso completo, percorrendo tutto il labirinto, ha uno sviluppo di 3 chilometri.
Or, if you're lost in it, I suppose more like 30 kilometers.
O forse 300 chilometri.
No one has ever built such a labyrinth, and no one has ever built something similar in a beautiful place like that one.
Può essere considerato anche una sorta di follia.
So I think that the whole thing is not part of the normality. Yeah.
But beyond the fantasy, there's a spiritual meaning to this maze for Ricci, and for Bontempi too. It's captured in a book about labyrinths by Ricci's friend, the Argentinian writer Jorge Luis Borges.
When Borges was telling about the garden with the forking paths, okay, we have a forking paths, and Piercarlo is going on one way, which of course is not wrong because the other is all right. So I see there are different possibilities to do architecture.
Quando si è in un cammino di cui non si conosce la via d'uscita, si è portati a riflettere. Anche il nostro animo, l'interno del nostro animo è fatto un po' in questo modo, è una sorta di labirinto ed è un cammino anche verso una sorta di ricerca della verità. La verità noi sappiamo sempre che è molto difficile da raggiungere e non ci dà mai certezze. Il cammino del labirinto è un po' una ricerca della verità all'interno di noi stessi.
Major funding for A Taste for the Past, architect Piercarlo Bontempi, is provided by the University of Notre Dame School of Architecture.